Knock knock, everybody. Welcome to Start a Stone with me, who you all know. And there's Jane. Hello, Jane. How you doing? What button am I pressing? Oh, that one. So I'm back after the madness and chaos of the last few weeks and the continued chaos of not knowing actually what time it is anywhere. I'm here. So, morning, afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. So, who have we got? Let me see if I can make this work again because I forgot. There's Jane. Hi, Jane. I know Jane. She's very knowledgeable about druidy stuff. So, yeah, very cool. Obviously, oh, no, that's all the comments. Anyway, hello, I'm back. So Jane is going to probably tell me where I'm going wrong with any of the stories that I might or might not mention today. So, and Sherry's here. Hi, Sherry. And Neshi. Hi, Neshi. And if we got anybody else, I really can't remember how I'm supposed to work this, and so you'll have to forgive me when I'm pressing the wrong button and probably ending the broadcast in about 5 minutes accidentally. Who knows? But I've got my giant blue rock. There she is. Hello, giant blue rock. She's going to help me today. And so let's rock. Let's be talking about, let's just adjust that. Story and song. There's Jocelyn. Morning, Jocelyn. And so I asked you all to bring your favourites. I hope you've done your homework because I did mine because I'm a good boy, I am. So if you've got any stories you'd like to share with us or books or songs that we can go and rummage around the tinterweb and try and find and have a look at for go on a grand adventure looking for them ourselves, that would be fun too. So yeah, yes. Giant blue rock says hello back to Sherry. Anyway, so thing about story and songs are they're kind of a lot more important than modern society in the world gives them credit for, I feel. And I suppose many of you all have much the same opinion, really. So let's kind of delve into that a little bit, because the old ways, my ways, Jane's ways, your ways, Neshi's ways, always told stories. We always sang. The stories were real and ethereal at the same time. The people and beings within the stories were both real and imaginary at the same time. My personal opinion, if you will allow me that, is to say that all the legends are real. Arthur and Merlin, dragons and unicorns. In my head, they're all real. They always were, they always have been, they always will be. And the power of the old legends has such power and have stayed with us for so long is because how could they not be real, really? If they're that powerful, how could they not be real? Oh, Jane, how's your foot? Is it all fixed? Are you all fixed? Because May's approaching rapidly, and the retreat is getting closer. Jane is a member of the Druid Order that I also belong to, and our retreat will be at the end of May as usual, and we're going to have a joyful druidy time full of lots of druidy goodness and stuff. So yeah, Jane's had a bit of an issue, and I just hope she's okay. So anyway, where was I? Yeah, real. They're all real. In my humble opinion, they are all real, and they always will be. So let's just see if I've done this right or wrong. Is there any more comments? No, not yet. Okay, cool. Oh, what have I done? Yeah, it's okay. I'm just making sure I've done this right. Anyway, so I mean, stories are wonderful tools for learning and teaching with as well, when they often say something to us, and again, it all depends on. I mean, the same story could be told in several different ways, and people can then take different meanings from those stories. And oh, here we go. Jane, pin out, lots of physio, a few pains and aches, but nothing stopping me from wafting and walking. Awesome. Awesome. That's fabulous news. Great, great, great news indeed, Jane. So, I mean, there's one that I'm going to bring up in a little while about how the wren became the king of birds. Let me just. So women can be druids as well, the same title and all. Yep, absolutely. They're the same. If you want to feminize the title, you can say druidess. If you're going to be all modern about it, you can just say druid. It's the same thing. I'm hearing a shout. Just talk amongst yourselves for a moment. I've got to go and see. You know how it goes. Hello, I'm back. So, anyway, what was I saying? What about that as in the same Native American beliefs? Oh, that as in some Native women aren't able to carry the same title or information as men. No, gender is not important. If you are supposed to know what you need to, if you're supposed to be a druid slash druidess, however you want to, however you want the title to read, it's the same whether you're male or female. It's not relevant. Jane, do you want to say anything? Oh, what do you think? Well, you already know. But yeah, so it's the same. Makes no difference. It all depends. As Jane's answer. gender not limiting in our out, gender not limiting in our world. Yeah, no, it's there's no limit. The only limit is yourself and what you want to do, where you feel your path takes you, and that is it. So you can't really say any more than that. Um, it's just one of those things. That's what we do. Um, so yeah, it's all cool, all cool. I mean, I think that's one of the main, one of the big attractions of druidry. So you'll have to forgive me. I've forgotten how to talk. Um, that there are no restrictions, no limitations. There are no barriers to what you can learn. Everybody is welcome. The only real requirement is the love of the world and the love of the earth, the sky, the trees, the land, the birds, life, and the spirit world. I suppose that's your only entry requirement, really. Um, so yeah, it's just welcoming to everybody that wants to come and visit, whether it be a brief visit or a lifelong visit. Who, again, it's entirely up to the individual themselves and where they want to take themselves, where they've, like I say, their own path is taking them. Yep, that's okay. Sometimes I forgot how to read as well. Um, so yeah, like no difference whatsoever, none at all. And when you talk about gender, especially, I mean, yeah, there are often traditions that do make a separation and a difference, and whether I understand it or not is irrelevant. But I, I was going to say something, then it's fallen out of my head. Yeah, no, it just doesn't make any difference, And oh, that was it. Um, I mean, even modern society. So the allegedness, the alleged enlightenment of modern society would say, yeah, everybody's equal, blah blah blah. But we all see it day in and day out. The differences in pay, the difference is in um, promotion through business, through the academic world. It's everywhere. There is a restriction in some ways, whereas you know from a masculine standpoint, there are many men out there in the world that can't um, accept a woman having more knowledge or power's the wrong word, more responsibility, etc., than they do. They struggle with that. Um, but within my tradition and in my own mind, I can't see what the problem is, you know. It doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, so Druidry is all inclusive and just wants everybody to be happy and the world to be safe and free and full of loveliness and spirits and unicorns. I do like unicorns. Shall I tell you a quick unicorn story? I don't know if I've already mentioned this one a while back. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I'm going to bring it back in anyway. Just bringing in unicorns because unicorns are real, as I said. So the story goes that as Genghis Khan was rampaging across Asia, doing what he did, which we all know what they did, he stopped and was in preparations to invade India. And the story goes, the legend is that he went off on his own one day to look across the land that he was about to invade, when he encountered a very strange beast. It was described as the size of a large goat, and it had green fur and a single red horn in the center of his forehead. So not your traditional horse size white unicorn. This was slightly different. So, hey, maybe there are different species of unicorn out there. I'm just putting that out just for your own deliberations and thoughts. Anyway, so he is gazing. He encounters this creature as he's gazing across the land of India, and the creature looks at him, and he looks at the creature, and the creature looks into his eyes, and he looks into the creature's eyes, and he felt the spirit of his father within the creature. And his father's spirit told him that he should not go any further, that this was the land of the Buddha, and under no circumstances should he invade. So he turned around and went home. The end. It's only a little story, but I like that one. It's one of those little legends that is connected with unicorns, but in a slightly different way. And not that many people have heard that one, and I think it's just really cool. So yeah, there we go. So what else about story and song? I mean, the song as well. Oh, there we go. Morning, Robin. Only slightly. It wasn't a long story, so don't worry too much. It'll be on there somewhere. So, where am I going? My head's all out the window at the moment with one thing and another, and you know, things have been quite stressful here at home from time to time. And even last week, it went all a bit pear-shaped again. Anyway. So I look at stories and songs in the same way. They're there to communicate both the legend and a teaching and a meaning to the people listening to them. I heard a comment a while back about the all right, you want the Eagle Wren story? It's technically not the Eagle Wren story. It's technically the how Wren became the king of birds. This is one of those little stories that you can, depending on who you're telling it to and what meaning you want to extract from it, you can just change the way you tell it. But I'm going to tell it how I like it to be told, how I like to hear it. So, long, long ago, there was a great gathering of all the birds in the world to decide who should be their king. And different birds with different abilities were shouting amongst themselves, I should be king. I swim better than all of you. I should be king. I can hover, said the hummingbird. I can fly backwards. You can't. And they all had their own reasons for being king. And even the little wren was trying to shout over the din to say, what about me? Tiny little wren? Don't I get a go? Don't I get the chance to be king? Just basically ignored by everybody. Nobody could hear him. And then the eagle spoke up and said, the bird who should be our king should be the bird who can fly highest of all. And everybody looked at him and said, yeah, you're just playing into your own hands there. You just, you know, everybody knows you fly highest than everybody else. And the eagle said, yes, this is true. However, should not the bird who has the will to fly higher than I truly be king? And they really couldn't argue with that. So they all prepared themselves. They stretched their wings, prepared to take flight. And just as eagle spread his wings, the tiny little wren hopped up and hung on tight underneath the wings of the eagle. Now, being so tiny and small and light, eagle didn't even notice. And he just hung on there. So everybody took flight. The eagle, the duck, the pigeon, the hummingbird. Technically, even penguin, took a leap out of the water, gave it his best shot. You got to give him points for that. And they all, one by one, took to the air. And slowly, the eagle started climbing higher and higher and higher. And one by one, the birds gave up. They knew they couldn't, make it any further. Everybody gave it their best shot. And eagle just flew higher and higher and higher until he could fly higher no more. And at that point, just as he was about to exclaim his victory, the tiny little wren let go and beat his wings as hard as he could. He gave it every little last ounce of effort that he had and just managed to fly a few inches above the eagle. And he shouted, look, birds, here I am. I am your king. That is how the wren became the king of birds. I'm not a great storyteller, I know, but I give it my best shot. Just like the wren, only the wren, did it a bit better than me. So there's, actually that's the basis of the story. But when you tell it in a slightly different way, that telling it in that way, you've got the smallest of creatures overcoming adversity to succeed. Tell it in a slightly different way. You can make the wren out to be a sly, cunning little creature. You know, his victory coming on the back of somebody else. There's an extended version of the story where they then see who can fly lowest. The wren still wins in that one as well, by the way. So, again, so how do you tell the story? What are you trying to convey? Who's in what way is the victory made? These are things when you're telling stories, the audio, you're talking to the audience you're talking to are going to need some wisdom in some way. And what wisdom they need, you're the one that needs to pull that out of the story. So how you tell it is where the wisdom is found. So we have to be conscious of that. Perhaps you're speaking to an audience of people who are quite powerful and don't notice those below them, like the eagle and like the wren. And it's a wisdom tale that can possibly help them see that they should not ignore the smallest people in society. So how should you tell the story? That you should tell it in the way with the wisdom that the people listening need. Does that make any sense? Jane, help me out here. You must have had your cup of tea by now. I could do with one myself, actually. Anyway, shall I tell you another story? And this is a story. I mean, that's an old story. The eagle and the wren is an old story. But just because there are old stories, we shouldn't ignore the new ones, because new ones are always being revealed. And I've got I love this. I'm going to tell you another story, and I absolutely love this story. And it's quite modern. It starts in the 1960s during the space race. And Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and the other guy who I can't remember, I apologize, other guy that I can't remember, are training. And thank you, Jane. I'm going to share that one. I'm doing great. They're training for to, they're training for their moonwalks. Apollo 11 is a ways off, but they're training. And NASA, now I believe it was in Arizona. Anyway, wherever it was, there's a there's an area with fine volcanic sand, which would help, with figuring out how to move around on the moon, what the surface was going to be like. They even I'm going to use it with my toys today. Well, I hope so. Excellent. That's a fabulous thing. Fabulous. Anyway, so NASA have created a moonscape in the Arizona desert. And the astronauts are practicing moving around on this surface using the equipment that they've got, practicing. And there's an old Native American man. I believe he was Navajo, but I might have got that slightly wrong. But there's an old Native American man comes across them one day, and he was watching them, and he watches them the next day, and the next day, and one day he decides to go and find out what these weird, strange people in their weird, strange suits with their weird, strange equipment are actually up to. So he wanders down and he introduces himself and he asks, "But what are you doing? What's all this for? Why are you here? This is all very strange." So the two astronauts, Buzz Aldrin, well, three astronauts, because there's the other guy who I can't remember his name. Which other plant? Was it a tree? Was it a rose? Just checking. Where was I? Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and the other guy. So they explained to him, this is all part of our training to go to the moon, to walk on the moon. And the old man looks at them. He's quite taken aback by this. Obviously you would. This is not something that you normally come across or hear about. So weird people. What were they doing in Washington? Yes. Which Washington? State? DC? Or the Washington up north here? Because we've got one too. So, no. I didn't actually say Washington. Anyway, who knows? Maybe they were in Washington. I don't know. I don't know that part of the story. Maybe you'll find it for us, Rob. So, the old man, he thinks about what they've just told him. And then he speaks. And he says, the moon and the moon spirits are sacred to my people. When you go there, would you pass on a message for us? And he extracts a promise from Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin that yes, they would pass on a message for the old man and his people to the moon spirits. And in his own language, he gives them the message and he asks them and he makes them repeatedly tell him back the message over and over again until he knows that they've got it right, that they're speaking exactly the words that he needs them to say when they reach the moon. And then he leaves. Now, the astronauts can't let this go. Oh, I forgot a bit. This is the problem with stories. Sometimes you forget a bit and you have to scoot back. So I'm scooting back. Anyway, so when he knows that they've got the message right, they ask him, "What does it mean?" And the old man said, "I'm sorry, I cannot tell you. That is secret. It is sacred. It's a sacred message between my people and the moon spirits. I cannot tell you what it is." And then he leaves for a second time. So now the astronauts, they can't let this go. They get back to NASA and they need to know what this message is. They're too curious. They need to know. And they spend how they are looking everywhere for somebody that can translate the old man's language. And eventually they come across somebody who can. And he agrees to translate the message into English for them so that they can now also know what the old man and his people are passing on to the moon spirits. So they tell this, they relate the message to the translator, and the translator bursts into hysterical laughter. Eventually, when he calms down, the astronauts say, "What was so funny? What was so funny about that message?" The old man was very serious. He made us recite it over and over again to make sure we got it right. "Why are you laughing so much?" And the translator looks at them and says, "The message is this: don't believe a thing these people are telling you. They're here to steal your land." That's one of those stories that I really, really want to be true. What do you think? I'm going to leave it there until I get comments. Anyway, no, they weren't in DC or London. They were somewhere in Arizona area, maybe. Southwestern USA. Deserty places, Rob. So, that's my second story of the day. And you can take a lot from that if you look into it. There's well, you can't help but be suspicious about people sometimes. Anyway, I'm going to let you all think about that one and get back to me. Let me know what you think. So, moving on from there. Maybe. Maybe so. I don't know. I don't know where the story came from, but it was kicking around. It's still kicking around, in places on the Tinterweb. But yeah, probably. So yeah, it's a, and there's other moons, moon landing stories that I'm not going to go into now, but I don't know if anybody's heard about the one about Mr. Gorski. I'll let you look into that one yourselves. But that one is probably 100% apocryphal, though. Anyway, so yeah, stories are there to teach us. They're there to remind us. They're part history, part lesson, part morality lesson, part wisdom. And the same with songs, because in a lot of ways, songs are stories themselves, only with music or drumming, or both, you know. Thank you, Sherry. And oops, wobbly computer. So it's the same. You can treat them the same. Oh, Hopi. Yes, that makes sense. Uh, yeah. So I honestly don't know. You can find that story around and around, and it gives different information. But we do know that the astronaut training did take place in desert areas. NASA did do these make these moonscapes for training purposes and so on and so on. So, oops, what have I done? Oh, there you go. So, I I don't know exactly which people it was because you get uh, different names floating around on different stories, but I gave you what I know, the basis of it. So we really hope it's a true one. I really do, because it's one of those that really deserves to be. I don't know, Rob. I really don't know. It could be Nevada. It could be New Mexico. It could be Arizona. I'm just going to say somewhere southwestern USA, desert area. I haven't looked at it for specifics, but if you wanted to, I'm sure you could find it. The information's there. I mean, NASA histories and so on and so on. You know, that information is there if you want to look. I just like the story itself, and I don't. Sometimes sometimes the story and what's happening in it is more important than than an actual specific location, as in that one. So if you wanted to find out and come back to me on that one, I'd like that very much. Yeah, now that's funny. Oops, I've done it again. Anyway, so yeah. So we've got ancient stories, we've got modern stories. One is not more important than the other. Ancient songs and modern songs. And through from experience over here, we don't have many of our ancient stories and songs have been lost from the UK, from Britain, because of much in the way of being invaded by Romans, by new traditions, new religions coming in, the ones that override the old ones, the ones that So, you know, some of the stories and songs survived but changed. Some were lost or forgotten. And this is another thing that has been on my mind. And I've got a book that I'm going to show in a second. The the thing with stories and songs, and is something that came to mind when people were talking about the loss of much of our traditional Celtic song and story. How do we get that back? How could we possibly find that again? And that sparked an idea in my mind that the stories and songs were not actually lost forever, that they could be found again if we talked to the sky and the wind and the earth, because I believe that's where the stories and songs ultimately come from. We connect with the elements, with the spirits, with the goddess and the gods, and they give us the stories for us to tell the people. So the stories are still there. We just have to find them again. Uh, well, a bard and the storyteller. The bard is a storyteller. He's also a poet and a singer and many other things. If a storyteller just simply tells stories, then he's you could liken him to an entertainer, whereas the bard is not only telling the story but can tell the story to make a point, sing, sing the song to make a point, but also create new ones. And the storyteller can create new ones as well. But if you're doing it to make a point, bring in some wisdom, some knowledge, then that's more bardic than simply telling an entertaining story. So that but then again, perhaps some storytellers are doing the same thing. So yep. I don't know how to reply to that, Rob. Anyway, so and yes, there you go, Neshi. That's what Jane says. I'm going with that. So yeah, differences and similarities are abound, really. Yeah, abound. Let's see what shows. The trees hold many of the stories and songs that will show. Exactly. We just have to listen again. Go and ask for them to be returned. We're ready to hear them again. That's that was the idea. Anyway, so I found this book. Actually, I found the person before I found the book. Um, I met her. I've met her a couple of times now. Let's bring this up. and press that one. So that's the book, Whispers from the Earth. And now Taz Thornton does shamanic work and lots of other work. And she described the creation of this book in the same way as I just have with saying that and Sherry, that the trees and the songs and stories are all there. All we have to do is go and ask for them to come back, to bring them back again. So anyway, is this one of many books that she's going to write? I don't know, but this is the first one. So the old stories are still there. Sometimes they might come back in a new way. We might find them in a different way. The stories are there. All we have to do is go and find them. So that's Taz Thornton. I'll try and put links on the thingy site later. Anyway, where are we? Let's just. Stories are not hard to find for the one who is open to them. Exactly. It's we just have to open our minds and our eyes and our hearts, and that is a fact. That is a fact. Yep. And I've got another couple that I'm going to bring up as well. Oh, because the bard as we perceive it is more than just a performer. They are connected to the image. Yeah. Jane said it better than me. Thank you, Jane. But that's storyteller, entertainment, bard, beyond. We could go on for that for hours, but we'd come round to the same thing in the end anyway. So, I've gotten one in the engine room of Great Lakes Lightship. Interesting. Perhaps, Rob, perhaps you would share with us at some point in the future. No pressure. Yes, it is. It's a great little book. It's a great little book. Yep. Anyway, I'm going to bring up a couple more. There's got one typo. I realised. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to say something here, Rob. The way it can be a double entendre in British English. Yeah, it's just English. Just saying. Hope that clears things up. It's just English. Anyway, what am I doing? Oh, yeah. So those could be considered modern stories, but also ancient stories at the same time. So there's a little bit of crossover and intermingling. Whereas we have other books such as this, the Mabinogion, which is some of our ancient stories from Wales. Now, Ireland's got huge, incredible legends and stories, and they're masterful storytellers. They're masterful storytellers. Jane knows. Anyway, we don't often talk about the Welsh. Well, we do in our little druidic circles, but from a wider worldwide standpoint, the Welsh legends and stories are not much further known. Different dialectic constructs. Yeah, I've had. Yeah, it's still just English, Rob. Oh dear. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, the Mabinogion. Um, um, yeah, my brain's just gone now. Thanks, Rob. Anyway, the Mabinogion. I mean, this is a fantastic epic of a tale. So it's just huge. It's huge tales, and there's so much in it. I highly recommend this one. And this is the new version. This is the latest translation from the original Welsh, ancient Welsh. But you've got when the old tales were written down by the Christian scribes, they were Christianized along the way. So it does take a little bit of working out in your head. It's you can take it as the story as what it is, or you can look into it a bit further, just delve down in there and just bring out the try and tease out the story from the words on the page, if that makes any kind of sense at all. It does in my head, but stuff that goes on in my head, even I don't understand some of that sometimes. Um, and then there's this one, which is another great little book. Take that one down and bring this one up. This one's fab. This one's fab. It's a great book. And Eric, um, he runs a place in Snowdonia called Kai Mabon, and it's a retreat centre, and people go there, and it's all really fantastic. It's a fantastic place, and he's gathered stories um, um, from the area of, the some of them are gathered from the Mabinogion, like the Tale of Blodeuwedd, who's on the front cover there, and others. Yeah, it's a great book, and it's an easier, I suppose, an easier read than the Mabinogion itself, which can be quite tough going, the way it was originally written. Um, but yeah, the stories are fabulous, fabulous stories. So I'm going to take that off there. I'll put them on the pagey thing later. Um, and yes, yes, I have. I'm not saying I didn't have an issue, but we made it through. Um, so thank you, Dashi. Yes, thank you. I try, but it's easy to laugh at myself. Honestly, it really is. Um, right, there we go. So this, when you were in Wales a couple of years ago, you were looking for their storyteller specifically female. People told me they don't have them anymore. Just a few grannies here and there, but not many. That's possibly true, but Eric, who wrote the Snowdonia folk tales, has been gathering a lot of the stories, and he did a fantastic. A he's an amazing storyteller. He really is. Jay, when we were there on retreat, um, the he did tell the story of oh, what's his face? Jane, help me out. Help me out, Jane. Um, it'll come to me in a second. Oh, he's gone. Oh, hang on. Let me have a look. I've got the book here. It was. Do 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 do. Yeah, it's got the story of Taliesin, Merlin, and the dragons. It's got the story of Blodeuwedd, and that's part of the story of Llaegllawgefes. And who was his dad? Uh, the Eagle and the Wren story's in here as well. Oh, I can't find it. Anyway, there's much of the Mabinogion in here and other stories, and it's great. Highly recommend this one. So, what time is it? Does anybody know? Oh yeah, it's just after then. Bran. Yeah, that wasn't the one I was thinking of. Bran. That's a great story, especially when you link it to the Tower of London and the Ravens. There's a connection there. Yeah, yeah, any great storytellers. I've been to Wales often. When I say often, I mean once. Yeah, I've been once. I actually went through Wales to get to Ireland once as well, but that's a whole different story. No, must have not been looking in the best places or asking the right people. Yeah, they are there. They're there somewhere. Um, oh, what was his name? It wasn't. It was out of the fourth. It was from the fourth branch. Who were the brothers? Gwydion. That was it. Gwydion. Gwydion, Llaegllawgefes, Blodeuwedd, and Math. Yeah, there's everybody loves the fourth branch of the Mabinogion. Everybody, it's amazing. Yeah, it's full of magic and treachery and betrayal, and it's epic. It's absolutely epic. Anyway, so yeah, I think I should be doing other. What time is it? Was it? Oh yeah, it's just after 2 now. So it's that time where I'm supposed to say ta-ta. I know I've rambled a bit, and my storytelling skills are poor, to be honest, but I tried. And even if they were poor, then unfortunately you don't write words very well. Of course you do, Rob. You write them better than me because you wrote that other thing that I asked you to do, and that was great. So there you go, Nishi. How's that? How's that? And that last thing you did when you wrote that thing. Oh, God, what? My brain's all over the place. Yeah, I don't do words good. Anyway, blah blah blah. What am I talking about? Yeah, if you've been inspired to go and find out some stories, to learn them, yeah, we could do so much more on this kind of subject, couldn't we? Might do it again next month. I'll have a think. Yeah, go and learn stories, whether they be old or new. If they inspire you, learn them and then pass them on. Same with songs, learn them and pass them on. And yeah, we'll chat more next month. So let's just do this. Thank you, Neshi, and thank you, Jackie. And yeah, stories are awesome. We love stories. So have a great and glorious. Oh, hang on. It's the process of sharing the story that matters, not necessarily. Thank you, Jane. You are most kind. And yes, I can. There you go. Whispers of the Earth by Taz Thornton. So there you go. You're most welcome, Rob. I don't know, but I will try and yes, and with you, Sherry, and with everybody. Um, what buttons am I pressing now? Anyway, everybody was very kind. Thank you very much. It's been great talking to you all again, and I will catch up with you all again soon, and I'll post links and things to books. Oh, before I go, I got a book the other day. It's a retelling of The Firebird, a Russian story by a writer called Tom Hirons. I know I posted a link on there. Well, for last month's show, which is this month's show, which was going to be last month, but is now this month. So I'll post some more links on there about with Tom Hirons because he wrote a poem called Sometimes a Wild God, and it's one of those poems that I've got stuck in my head, and it's one of those that really grabs you and you think everybody should hear this or read it. So I'll post that again. So I would urge you to listen to him reciting that poem because it's incredible. It's incredible. Anyway, so with all that, yeah, thank you, Robin, and thank you, everybody, and Sherry and Jocelyn, and I shall see you next month, hopefully. You know what my life's like. It all goes pear-shaped from time to time and it all goes wrong. But anyway, so have a great and glorious rest of the day, and I shall see you again soon. So until then, I shall press that button and say bye-bye, everybody, and I'll see you again soon. Have a wonderful time.